All dealings between Catalonia and the central government in Spain are deadlocked. The Spanish civil service accuses the Catalan government of misappropriating funds. Statements by the Spanish finance minister seem to contradict this. At the same time in Germany, Carlos Puigdemont was freed by the German courts, but the European arrest warrant against him remains outstanding. From the European institutions, most voices say that this is a matter internal to Spain. To discuss the current state of the Catalan crisis, I have the MEPs Dr. Josep Maria Terricabras and Ivo Vajgl with me here. To start our questions, may I ask Dr. Terricabras, could you in 2 minutes outline briefly your vision of Catalonia as a state within the EU?
Well, I think it would have a good opportunity to become a state, because if you look at the map of Europe, you will see many states which are much smaller than Catalonia, so we have this possibility. Though the relationship with Spain makes things very difficult, because Europe agrees with Scotland being an independent state, but it seems that it's difficult for Catalonia. That's a very strange position. But we are persistent. Catalans are persistent, and we do it in a very peaceful way, so that we try for years and years to become independent and to have the capacity of self-determination, and I think that we will succeed, even if Spain doesn't want.
Mr. Vajgl, the Alliance of Liberals and Democrats for Europe, what position do they take on the Catalan issue?
We don't have any common position as the political parties. Everybody who is interested and wants to do something in order to the problem between Catalonia and the federal government of Spain should be solved, is doing it on its own, on a personal basis. So I am engaged in this problem as myself personally, and I can say also I can speak on behalf of Slovenian public opinion. There are long-standing friendly relations between Slovenian people and people of Catalonia. Catalonia supported us when we were striving for independence. We knew it, and the minimum we can do is to show sensibility for the situation in Catalonia. At this moment, I am focused on the problem of the people who have been jailed inappropriately, unacceptably. It is not normal that in a European country there are political prisoners. The second thing, which is also unacceptable, is that the federal government in Madrid refuses any kind of dialogue how to solve the problem on the satisfaction of both sides.
Given this inability to deal properly with the issue from a government perspective, to both of you, do you see any prospect for this being resolved internally in Spain?
Well, I do think it's not an internal question. A question which affects a country like Spain is a question which affects the European Union. So that to say that's an internal question, that's a bit funny, because the other day we passed a resolution on Malta. Mm-hmm. And we said it's important, point 5 and point 6 of that resolution. I intervened in that. And we said, well, the European Union should intervene and be mediator, etc. Of course, it's a country of the Union. So I do think that's not an internal question, first of all. And secondly, of course, the European authorities should intervene in a nice way, not obliging, not doing strong things against a country or another, but trying that dialogue is possible. which is the most important thing. We are not claiming for that the European Union helps us for independence. That's something which has to be decided by Catalans. We are claiming that they help us to have a referendum, that we find a way of solving the problem. But how the problem will be solved, that we will see in the future.
Mr. Vajgl, did you agree with this?
Well, I agree with everything my colleague has said, but I would like to underline that the government of Madrid, on the day of the referendum on the 1st of October, applied violence against the peaceful voters who wanted to express their democratic vote. And everybody, all the world was able to see pictures on the television of brutal violence, this is simply something we cannot accept as normal within the standards, within the acceptance of European Union. And the silence about these facts of violence, the silence about the fact that Spanish government and judiciary are engaged in putting in the jail after on the accusations which are completely out of normality for rebellion. What the hell is rebellion in the Europe of 21st century? So none of European countries has something like rebellion in its legal system. So this is the reason why the silence of Europe is shameful. And I'm really upset with the fact that European Union, the leadership of European Union, did not find appropriate to react. If we are reacting on the events and development in Hungary, if we are reacting on the undemocratic processes in Poland, then of course we should react also on the undemocratic, unacceptable practices in Spain. But again, with the aim to help, with the aim to find a way to, through dialogue, through a tolerant, pacific dialogue, to solve the problem.
So Europe needs to act. What role do you see it? Do you see Europe as a mediator? You also mentioned, Mr. Terricabras, the potential for organizing a referendum. Is there a concrete wish that you have?
As a mediator or as a facilitator, so to speak, so that they try that Spain comes to an agreement with Catalans to organize something. I know how Spaniards are, and they are very proud, which is legitimate, so I don't think they will allow that someone else organizes a referendum for them. They will organize it, and that's okay. But of course we have to sit down and see what we do to solve a political crisis. It's a political crisis, it's not a criminal one, it's a political one, and instability in the south of Europe is not convenient for anyone, for Europe, for Spain, for Catalonia, for anyone. So I hope that as facilitator, the European Union can intervene, probably in a very discreet way, so that Spain doesn't feel itself hurt, which is not what we want.
I think I agree again with the colleague. I think that the reaction or action of European Union should be in the direction of facilitating dialogue. We know that Spain is rejecting the idea of mediation or intervention or whatsoever. Spain is a proud nation, but Catalans are a proud nation also. No? Spain doesn't want to be humiliated, but Spain is humiliating Catalans. Spain is humiliating the Catalan leaders. Can you imagine that the people who have been elected on democratic elections are sitting in jail without the right to be visited by their colleagues, the family, and without the contact with the outer world? So this is something which more resembles to inquisition than to the practice of a democratic and rule of law committed government. So facilitation is something what I see as a need in this situation, and I really hope that there will be some politicians, some personalities in Europe who will be disponible for, who will be ready to take this burden. It is not easy. Everybody knows it. It is complicated. But I would say also that the interest for this conflict, for this problem in Europe is rising. The public opinion and media are reacting. I saw a couple of days ago there is a very interesting and very clear declaration of the 100 academics from United States of America. The first signature was Noam Chomsky.
Okay.
So these people are not dreamers or I don't know lost. They didn't lose the sense for reality. They see the reality, and the reality calls for to do something.
So, as you mentioned, there's a lot of public interest in this topic, a lot of people speaking out. Civil society in Barcelona, across Europe, also here in Brussels, has been very vocal on this issue. What do you see the chance of this civil society influencing the decision making in Europe on this topic?
Well, civil society is very important part of the public opinion, and I am calling for the civil society organizations not to be passive in this, but to try to help. Again, it is in the nature of civil society to be peaceful, to be committed to non-violence. The civil society in Catalonia is a peaceful organization, has proven it also when the others were not peaceful but were using violence. So it is important that the civil society organizations react. I can tell you from the experience of my country, we had a massive mobilization of young people, of scientists, of writers, of even of policemen. So Slovenian policemen wrote to all international fora of the police organizations and called for solidarity with the Catalan policemen who have been charged, who have been accused for not using the violence against their own people.
Yeah, if I may just remind you that in Spain there are now not just politicians in jail without trial, but leaders of civil society. The two most important leaders of civil society over 6 months in prison. People who have organized extraordinary demonstrations with hundreds of thousands of people in a very peaceful way. So civil society is extremely active, but I'm afraid that the repression goes not just against politicians, but also directly against civil society. That, I think, is a tragedy and not a good sign of democratic values.
I think it is important also to understand when we are having discussions like this, we like Spain. We like this country with all their nations, with all its rich culture, fantastic sportists and everything like that. We should not divide European public opinion on friends and enemies of Spain. No? We should be understood as friends, engaged Europeans, which would like to have European norms and European moral, European tolerance and culture applied in all European countries.
Absolutely. That's also on my part. We are not against Spaniards. I have a lot of friends in Madrid and in other places of Spain, and I am delighted of that. And I think that we speak fairly well Spanish, so we don't have that problem. The problem is that we don't want to be oppressed or repressed. We want to have the capacity, as all countries in the world, of self-determination and to say what we want to be and to become in the next future. That's our just the point. Not hate or not that we are not happy with our friends of Spain. No, no, that's not the problem.
Then, very finally, to wrap things up, what do you see the prospects of the issue being resolved in the near future?
It depends very much of whether or not the Spanish government will accept the offer by Catalans to sit down at the table to peacefully explain its motivation, its reasons for its reaction and action, and then to ask for a solution which would be acceptable for both sides. I don't see another way in democracy to solve the problems.
We offered this several times and we are ready to do that. But when I hear, and it has been said by very, very prominent people, that the unity of Spain is more important than democracy or than common life in Spain, that I think is extremely frightening, because the unity of Spain is probably a value, but it's not the highest value in a democracy. That can't be.
If I may, one sentence. I think it is very dangerous if the Spanish government, being unable to open a normal democratic dialogue with Catalans, are trying to homogenize the Spanish society against Catalans. This is a danger, the only real danger in this situation, because it is impossible that the broad majority is mobilized against the minority. So a minority wherever has to be respected. The voice of minority is a part of democracy.
So with that, we have a clear call for the European Union to get involved as a mediator and to help resolve the issue in Catalonia. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you again soon.